Now, I'm a pretty big advocate of backing up your computer, especially if you have a Mac, because Time Machine makes it super easy to back up your data. Just plug in an external hard drive, select it as a Time Machine backup, and every time you plug it in, your Mac will automatically back up to it. And Time Machine is a great utility. Not only does it allow you to recover your operating system and all your files if you update to, say, a new version and it corrupts your hard drive, or if you accidentally delete a file, it can allow you a peek back not only into the last time that file was backed up, but into the complete history of that file. What happens if you don't have a Time Machine set up, or if it's been a while since you plugged your mobile computer, such as a MacBook Pro, into your external hard drive? Well, then you're going to need a data recovery tool in order to recover that data. And this is where Stellar Data Recovery thinks they have the answer. Now, this isn't exactly cheap software, and before continuing, I must disclose that I was given a copy of the software for free, as long as I agreed to do a video on it. However, they didn't really tell me what I could or couldn't say about the software, so I guess this is what they get. The first thing I want to discuss is that this software allows you to do both a deep scan and a quick scan. Now, actually, the best way to go about explaining how this works is to actually look at a book. And what we'll do is we'll open up to the table of contents, and this is essentially how a file system will work. So as you can see here, we have a list of not what we'll call file names, and we have where their location is at. Like, for example, transport layer drivers are on page 320 of this book. And if I take and I cross that out, what I've essentially done is actually delete that file. Yet it's still there. If I turn to page 320, I will still find it there. But because I've deleted it from our file system or from our table of contents, it will no longer show up in our main search. So we can still find it here from a quick search, but let's say I corrupt the entire table of contents. I rip them out of this book and I shred them up. Well, now essentially everything has been deleted. So in order to recover them, I'll have to do a deep scan, and I will have to actually look through the entire book for page 320. But I don't know where it's at, so I'm going to have to look at every page to see where that mention of drivers is at. And that's essentially what this application will do on Deep Scan. On Deep Scan, it will look through every byte of the hard drive looking for files that have been potentially deleted. Now, of course, the principles within modern file systems are much more complex than a simple table of contents, and going into the details of it and explaining why sometimes a file may or may not be recoverable due to certain circumstances, including defragmentation of the hard drive, is well beyond the scope of this video. So for the simplicity's sake, we'll just go ahead and say that it works like a table of contents system, because essentially it does. However, for the more curious, you may peruse the various topics of file systems on Wikipedia, as there is quite a bit of information there that explains it in much more detail. Now, the basic principle behind this is if you have simply a file deleted, then a quick scan will most likely do the job. However, if you have something much more like a corrupted hard drive or a corrupted file system, then you're going to have to do a deep scan and just be prepared to wait several hours for it to complete. Now, I'd like to point out that what you're seeing on the screen right now is actually the same hard drive recovering the same files. It takes that much longer to do a deep scan on a standard 1 terabyte hard drive. Now, I'd like to point out that before I conducted the deep scan, I actually successfully succeeded in corrupting the partition table by attempting to format it, but of course, disk utility failed, and this left me with a perfectly screwed up partition table that was just perfect for doing these tests. It actually really was. Now, the professional version of this software that I've been given does not allow you to completely restore a corrupted file system. You have to get the Platinum edition for that. However, the professional does allow you to save the files that it's found during the scanning process, and save them to wherever you want on another disk or whatever. Now, one interesting thing to note is that if you try to run this on your main hard drive, you'll get this message, and if you look at the user manual, it tells you that you have to boot into the recovery operating system in order to disable SIP, or Systems Integrity Protection, and then reboot. Now, I thought this was a bunch of crap until I tried it with root privileges in the terminal, and as it turns out, it's completely correct. You do in fact have to follow the steps in the user manual in order to run this application on your primary hard drive. Now, one important limitation to note is that this application actually uses a list of files to actually look for the files that are missing. So some things such as binary files or source code may not always be recoverable. So this is just a thing that you want to take into consideration. Now, one nice bonus of this software that I was pleased to see is the ability to create and write disk images from or to your disks, which is a great feature, seeing as ever since macOS El Capitan, we've seen disk utility slowly become more and more anorexic, as I've mentioned in a previous video. Man, I missed this old disk utility. I don't know why Apple changed it to the weird crap they have now that doesn't work half the time. And the best part is, it's also very specific. It'll allow you to grab as much or as little as the sectors of the disk and create an image from it as you want. Now, in fairness, that's a very specific function, and one you're probably only going to use if you're a frequenter of osdev.org. Alright, so the question comes down to, would I recommend Stellar Data Recovery Professional to you? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is because Platinum is only $50 more at regular price. And for that, you get the ability to repair a corrupted hard drive, and it gives you a bootable USB. Two features which are well worth the extra cost, and I would highly recommend you get that over the professional. Sadly, I was not given the Platinum Edition to try. However, I would highly recommend at least looking into it. So in summary, this is a perfectly usable tool with an adequate feature set. However, if you have the extra money, I would definitely recommend, again, springing for the Platinum Edition instead of the Professional Edition. On top of that, at the very least, you can go ahead and download the free trial of the software, and that'll only allow you to read the disks, but it won't allow you to recover the files. Of course, to recover the files, you will have to buy the software. So it's at least worth downloading the free trial and seeing if it'll actually recover what you want it to in your specific instance. And if so, get the version of software that you find the most suiting for what you would like it to do. I would like to see the ability added to select and add your own file types in the future. However, as it stands, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, and I did find the software capable of doing more than I was expecting it to do in the first place. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call it close to this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, have a good one.